They said I was too old to matter, too slow, too emotional, too much of a burden. After my husband passed, my own family, my son, his wife, even my own sister, treated me like I was expired. But you know what's worse than being ignored? Being used. And that's what they did. Used my love, my home, my savings. Until one day, I disappeared from their lives. And when they finally needed me, well, let's just say, the game had changed. If you're over 60 and feel invisible, this story is for you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Because we're not done yet. We're just getting started. I'm not proud to say this, but after Harold died, I forgot who I was. For 40 years, I was his wife. Margaret Fielding. Homemaker. Book club organizer. Sunday soup queen. The woman with warm hands and too much sugar in her tea. But after his funeral, when the casserole dishes stopped coming and the condolences turned into silence, I found myself in a house that felt too big and too quiet. My son, Adam, moved in a week later with his wife, Justine. Not to comfort me, oh no, but to help manage the property. At first, it felt like a blessing. I didn't want to be alone, but I should have known better. Mom, you don't need to be climbing stairs at your age, Adam said sweetly at first, helping me move into the small guest room near the laundry. It's just temporary, till we settle in, Justine chirped, carrying in decorative throw pillows and scented candles that didn't smell like me. Then came the little things. They turned my reading room into a home office, my garden into a dog run, my kitchen into Justine's influencer space. She filmed videos in there, wearing aprons she never cooked in, speaking in that fake, soft voice while I was made to stay out of frame. At first, I thought they're young. They just need space. But the worst part was, Adam started calling me ma'am, not mom, ma'am, like I was a stranger. And then the money started disappearing. They said it was for repairs, updates, investments. Adam had access to Harold's life insurance since he was the executor. I didn't want to seem ungrateful, so I kept quiet. But the bank notices came, and they weren't small. They were draining everything Harold left me. And you know what they said when I asked? Mom, you don't understand finances. Mom, stop stressing. It's bad for your heart. It was like I'd become a ghost in my own home. Until one night, I heard them whispering in the kitchen. Once she's gone, we can sell this place for a killing, Justine said, not knowing I was standing right outside the door. Gone. As in dead? I went to bed that night and didn't sleep a wink. That was the night the silence turned into strategy. Stay with me. This story isn't just about me. It's about every woman over 60 who gave everything and was left with nothing. There's more to come. Click the like button if you've ever felt invisible. And subscribe, because you'll want to see what I did next. You're still here? Good. That means something in my story touched a nerve. Maybe you've been where I am, where people smile at you like you're a harmless antique, a relic to admire or discard. Let me tell you what happened next. The morning after I overheard their conversation, I stood at the kitchen sink, scrubbing the same dish over and over. Not because it was dirty, but because my hands needed something to do, something to keep from shaking. Justine walked in, all glammed up like she was heading to a photo shoot. Morning, Margaret, she said, her voice coated with syrup. You okay? You look tired. I gave her the most polite smile I could manage. Didn't sleep well. Oh! She stirred her almond milk latte. You should try chamomile. Works wonders. Anyway, Adam and I have a meeting with our financial advisor today. We're thinking of converting the upstairs into a rental space. Passive income, you know. My blood went cold. Upstairs was Harold's office, his library, my sewing room, my life. They were going to slice my home up like a pie and serve it to strangers. Don't you think we should discuss that first? I asked, careful not to let my voice tremble. Oh, Margaret, she said, chuckling, we're just trying to take some pressure off you. You've done so much. Let us handle things from now on. That was when I realized they didn't see me as part of this house anymore. They saw me as part of the furniture. And you know what? That smile Justine gave me? The one she flashed to her 50K Instagram followers? It didn't reach her eyes. I went back to my room, if you could call it that. For walls, one window, and a twin bed like I was back in boarding school. I sat down and took out my little red notebook. You know the kind. The one where you jot grocery lists, favorite recipes, birthdays. But that day, I started a different list. Things they took from me, my bedroom, my savings, my garden, my identity, my dignity, and underneath that list, I wrote another heading. What I still have, my name, my mind, my memories, and the truth that's when the seed was planted. They wanted me gone. Fine. But I'd leave on my terms. And not before I made sure that when they looked around this house after I was gone, they'd feel the emptiness I'd carried for months. If you've ever had your world slowly taken from you, one smile, one excuse, one condescending comment at a time, you know this kind of pain. But don't go anywhere, because soon, the pain turned into a plan. And once a woman over 60 starts planning, well, things start getting interesting. Like, share, subscribe if you're ready to see what happens when the woman they underestimated turns the tables. If you're still here, bless your heart. You probably know what it feels like to sit in a room that used to feel like home and suddenly realize it's a prison with floral curtains. That's what it felt like in that little guest room, the one they shoved me into like I was luggage. I spent the next week pretending to be the same quiet, harmless Margaret. I smiled when Justine called me sweetheart, even though it made my stomach turn. I nodded politely when Adam explained for the 100th time why they had to move things around in the house. They thought I was soft. But the truth is, I was sharpening. One night, while they were out at some influencer gala, I know, ridiculous, I snuck into the upstairs office. The one that used to be Harold's study. It smelled like old leather and cedar and comfort. I sat at his old desk and opened the bottom drawer, where he kept everything important. They didn't think I'd remember the combination. But I did. 427. Our wedding date. Inside was a file I hadn't touched in years. Property deeds, insurance papers, and one yellowed folder labeled Living Trust. My hands trembled as I flipped through it. And there it was. In Harold's clean, slanted handwriting, in the event of my death, the full rights and ownership of the Fielding residence will pass to my wife, Margaret Fielding. My breath caught in my throat. They didn't know. They didn't know this house was mine legally and irrevocably. The next morning, I made a quiet phone call to Harold's old lawyer, Mr. Whitmore. He was still practicing. Said he remembered me fondly. I scheduled a meeting. I told Adam I was going to the pharmacy. He didn't even look up from his laptop. At Mr. Whitmore's office, I learned that not only did I own the house, but Adam had no legal claim to the property unless I chose to leave it to him in my will. I asked what would happen if I sold it. Well, Margaret, he said, adjusting his glasses, you could sell it tomorrow and legally keep every penny. You'd just need to evict them. Evict them. I let that word simmer. Felt it roll around in my chest like a thundercloud. Thank you, Mr. Whitmore, I said, standing straighter than I had in months. That's all I needed to know today. That night, I cooked dinner. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, Harold's favorite meal. I plated it with care, just like I used to. Adam and Justine walked in, surprised. Wow, Mom, Adam said. What's the occasion? I smiled sweetly. Oh, I just wanted to remind myself of who I used to be. Justine wrinkled her nose. Is this gluten-free? I laughed gently. No, dear. It's reality-free. Enjoy. I went to bed with the quiet confidence of a woman who had just remembered she owned the walls around her. And for the first time in a long time, I slept like a baby. Ladies, if you're over 60 and feel like your power's been stolen, remember this. They can't take what you don't give. Hit that like button if you've ever been underestimated. Subscribe, because this story isn't about survival anymore. It's about payback with a lace tablecloth and a smile. Thank you for staying with me, my friend. If you're nodding your head so far, if you felt that invisible weight settle on your shoulders after 60, like the world expects you to quietly disappear, I see you. And let me tell you something. Disappearing isn't the same as giving up. Sometimes, it's a strategy. Now, let's get back to where we left off. The next morning, I made myself a cup of coffee in my kitchen. I sat by the window that overlooked the garden, now mostly dog poop and Instagram props, and opened my red notebook again. At the top of a fresh page, I wrote one word in capital letters: eviction. I know, it sounds cruel, but was it crueler than letting them steal my peace, my memories, and my dignity? I thought of all the times they rolled their eyes when I spoke, the times they laughed behind my back, the night I heard them talking about selling the house once I was gone. Cruel? No, my dear. What they did was cruel. What I was about to do, that was justice. I called Mr. Whitmore again. Can you help me draft an official letter? I asked him. Of course. What's the nature of the notice? I want them out of my house. He hesitated, then said, consider it done. That afternoon, I printed the letter, slid it into a cream-colored envelope, and left it on the kitchen island. Justine found it first. I was folding laundry in the guest room when I heard her shriek like she'd seen a ghost. Adam, she's trying to evict us. He came storming down the hall. Mom, what the hell is this? I looked up, calm as a lake. It's a letter. You know, the kind grown-ups use when they need to reclaim their lives. You're not serious, he scoffed. We live here. I stood, folded towel still in hand. No, I live here. You were a guest who overstayed. And guests don't drain bank accounts or plan renovations behind someone's back. Justine's voice cracked. We're family, Margaret. Yes, and families don't treat their elders like burdens. You forgot that. Now, I'm helping you remember. They shouted, cried, begged, threatened, then begged again. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I'd already done all that alone, behind closed doors, with no one to listen but old memories. I'll give you 30 days, I said. That's generous. They stormed out of the room. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the back porch, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like a prisoner in my own skin. If you've ever had to stand up to your own blood, I know how hard that is. But listen to me, standing up for yourself after 60 isn't just possible. It's necessary. Like this video if you believe in second chances, especially your own. And subscribe because the next chapter? Oh honey, things are only getting started. I want to thank every one of you who's still with me right now, especially the women out there watching this story while sitting at a kitchen table that feels too quiet, too empty, too cold. You're not alone. I see you. And I promise, things do change. Now, where were we? Yes. The letter had been delivered. The truth had been spoken. Adam and Justine were still in the house, but something had shifted. They no longer walked around like they owned the place. They barely looked me in the eye. And at night, I heard them arguing behind closed doors. One night, about a week after I handed them the eviction notice, I walked past their bedroom on the way to the laundry room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when the walls are thin and the voices are sharp, it's impossible not to hear. I told you this wouldn't work, Justine hissed. You said she'd roll over. She was supposed to, Adam said. She's 70. She can't even manage a remote. Well, she just managed to ruin our lives. I stood there, frozen, holding a basket of towels. They didn't realize I'd been managing more than they thought. I managed my grief, my loneliness, my broken heart, my stolen peace. I managed survival. And now? Now I was managing my comeback. I leaned in closer, heart pounding. Do you realize how much debt we're in? Justine's voice cracked. We used her money, Adam. And now she's cutting us off? What are we going to do? Adam didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was smaller. Maybe we can ask her to sign the house over, or get her to refinance. I didn't stay to hear the rest. I didn't need to. They hadn't just drained my accounts, they'd been sinking their own lives, too. And now they were scrambling for a lifeline. The next morning, Adam made me breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, even fresh orange juice. He hadn't made me a meal since he was 9 years old. "Here you go, Mom," he said with a crooked smile. Thought I'd do something nice. I looked at the plate, then at him. "That's sweet of you," I said. "But if you're thinking food's going to change the eviction notice, you'll need a better recipe." He blinked. Forced a laugh. "No, I miss us talking, you know." I nodded, slowly. I miss the boy who used to talk to me without needing something. It stung him. I could see it. But I didn't gloat. I'd stopped wanting revenge. What I wanted now was respect. Accountability. Healing, maybe? If it came. Later that night, I sat in my room, red notebook open. And I added a new section. Things I've reclaimed, my voice, my name, my courage, my boundaries to every woman watching. If you've ever had to listen to your family plot around you like you weren't even human, I'm here to tell you, you are not crazy. You're not dramatic. You're not wrong for wanting peace. You're just tired of being erased. And that's okay. Because tired women still rise. Please hit that like button if you've ever felt like the background character in your own story. Subscribe if you're ready to become the main one again. Hello again, sweetheart. If you're still here, I already know you're strong. Maybe a little broken, maybe bruised, but strong all the same. And I want you to know you're not the only one who's ever sat in a house that used to feel like home and wondered how you became the outsider. Let me tell you what happened next. After the eviction notice, Justine started pretending to be sweet again. The kind of fake sweet that makes your teeth hurt. She started leaving little gifts in my room, her old scarves, a candle that smelled like coconut and lies, even one of her skincare products. "Thought you might like to treat yourself," she'd say. Treat myself? With the same money they stole from my account? Oh, the irony. But I played along, smiled politely, because sometimes silence is louder than any scream. And I wasn't done collecting truths. I called the bank next. I wanted to see exactly how much damage they'd done. The woman on the phone was gentle, but her tone changed when she saw the transactions. "Mrs. Fielding, it looks like several large transfers were made from your joint account with your son over the past 18 months. How large?" I asked, my voice calm. "Over $120,000. My stomach flipped. That was supposed to be my safety net. My bridge if I ever needed assisted care. Harold and I had built that slowly, carefully. And Adam? He used it for some doomed influencer startup and weekend getaways in Miami. I closed my eyes, breathed deep, and then I did something they never expected. I removed him from the account, changed the password, froze the funds, opened a new account in my name only. You know what it felt like? It felt like reclaiming my spine, like saying, "You don't get to call me forgetful and then forget I gave you life." When Adam found out, he stormed into my room like a thundercloud. "Mom, what are you doing?" I had plans with that money. I looked him square in the eyes. And I had plans for a peaceful retirement. Life's full of disappointments. You can't just cut me off. "Oh, sweetheart," I said quietly, I already did. He stomped out, slammed the door. Justine didn't say a word. She just stared at me from across the hallway like she'd finally seen the woman behind the apron. That night, I sat in the living room. I didn't need the TV. I didn't need music. I just listened to the silence, the peace that finally belonged to me. Ladies, I want you to hear me now. When you take back your name, your bank account, your space, you're not just protecting yourself. You're rebuilding a world they tried to burn down around you. Like this story if you've ever been told you were too emotional, too old, or too much. And subscribe because next chapter. Oh, you won't believe who shows up at my door. It wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't a friend. It was someone I thought I'd never see again. If you're still watching, bless you. It means something in this story feels a little too familiar. Maybe you've sat in that very same silence after the yelling stopped and the door slammed shut, wondering how life got so bitter. I know that silence well, but let me tell you what broke it wide open one chilly Thursday morning. I was sweeping the front porch. Yes, I still do that, even if my knees argue with me afterward, when I saw a man standing at the gate. He was tall, with silver hair, wearing a long navy coat. And though it had been nearly 30 years, I recognized him in an instant. "Raymond?" I whispered, nearly dropping the broom. He smiled. "Hello, Maggie." Raymond was, well, before Harold, he was the one. The kind of man you measure every other man against, even when you pretend you're not doing it. We were young, wild, and full of dreams until he got drafted and life took him away from me. I married Harold. Had Adam. Built a life. But Raymond? He never married. Said no one else made the coffee taste right. "What are you doing here?" I asked, barely holding back tears. He laughed gently. "Saw your name in an alumni magazine. Said you'd lost your husband. Said you were living alone in that beautiful old house in Clifton Hill. I figured I'd take a chance." I stood there like a fool, wind sweeping my hair into my eyes, thinking about all the years I'd spent feeling forgotten. And here he was, not only remembering me, but seeking me out. I invited him in. Made tea. We talked for hours, the kind of conversation that picks up right where you left off, like time hadn't dared to interfere. I told him everything. About Harold. About Adam. About Justine. About the lies, the stolen money, the disrespect. He didn't interrupt. Didn't try to fix it. Just listened. Like I was someone worth listening to. "You always had fire in you, Maggie," he said. Even when you didn't know it. That night, after he left, I felt something shift inside me. Not because I needed a man, not anymore. But because someone had finally seen me as a person again. Not a burden. Not a bill. Not a background character. And the next morning, Justine saw him too. "Who was that man yesterday?" she asked, half curious, half suspicious. "An old friend," I said with a smile. She narrowed her eyes. "Are you seeing someone?" I laughed, maybe a little too hard. "You mean, am I allowed to have a life that doesn't involve cleaning up after your labradoodle?" "Yes, I am." You should have seen her face. Like a deer caught in the middle of a road she didn't know someone else owned. Ladies, let me say this loud for the ones in the back. Your story doesn't end when your husband dies. Or when your kids stop calling. Or when they say, "You're too old for that." It ends when you say it does. So like this chapter if you believe in second chances. And hit that subscribe button because next chapter, someone gets desperate. Someone knocks on my door in the middle of the night, and it's not for a friendly visit. You know, when you live long enough, you start to hear the difference between a polite knock and a desperate one. That night, it was desperation. It was almost 11:30 p.m. The house was quiet, peaceful, actually. I had just finished a cup of chamomile and was reading an old Agatha Christie when the banging started. Not tapping, not knocking, banging. I walked slowly to the door, heart pounding but steady. I opened it, and there stood Justine. Her hair was a mess. Her makeup was smudged. And her face, well, let's just say it wasn't the polished, perfectly filtered version her followers were used to seeing. "And Margaret," she stammered. I need to talk to you." I didn't say anything, just stepped aside and let her in. She paced the living room like a trapped animal. "It's Adam," she finally said. "He's gone." "Gone where?" "He left," she choked out. "Packed up some clothes, maxed out our last credit card, and disappeared. No call. No text. He said I was the reason you're kicking us out. Said I ruined everything." I sat down slowly in Harold's old chair. "I'm sorry to hear that." She blinked. "That's it? You're sorry. What else would you like me to say?" I asked gently. "That I warned you both? That I spent months being used and disrespected under my own roof? That you laughed when I cried?" Tears welled in her eyes. Real ones this time. I don't have anywhere to go," she whispered. "My parents are in Arizona. I can't show up there like this. Please, Margaret. Just until I get back on my feet." And there it was. The moment I always wondered about. the moment the tables turned. The woman who mocked my age, my clothes, my habits, was now asking to sleep under my roof, under my rules. I looked at her long and hard. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. You can stay, I said slowly, but not as my daughter-in-law. As a tenant. Her brows furrowed. What? You'll pay rent, I said. You'll clean up after yourself. You'll respect my space. And most importantly, you will not manipulate me. Not anymore. She stared at me in shock, as if she couldn't believe the woman in front of her was the same Margaret she once dismissed like yesterday's leftovers. I can't pay rent right now, she whispered. I nodded. Then you'll work for it. My garden needs reviving. The fence needs painting. And I have a list as long as my arm. She hesitated. You're serious. As a heart attack. She agreed. And that night, as I lay in bed, I didn't feel like the victim anymore. I felt like the landlord. The boss. The matriarch I was always meant to be. Ladies, there may come a night when the ones who hurt you come back, not out of love, but out of need. And when they do, I hope you found your strength by then. Because forgiveness without boundaries isn't kindness. It's surrender. If you're still with me, please like this video, it helps more women find it. And hit that subscribe button because Chapter 9? Let's just say, Justine learns real quick that I'm not the same woman she used to walk over. Welcome back, sweetheart. I see you're still here, walking this road with me. Maybe you're sipping your tea or folding laundry while listening, but deep down, something tells me you're listening closer now. Because what happened next, it's the part most people don't believe until it happens to them. Let me tell you about the first week with Justine as my tenant. Now, you'd think after everything, she'd be humble. Grateful, even. But no. Old habits die hard, especially when pride is louder than wisdom. On her first morning, she walked into the kitchen wearing silk pajamas, her phone already in her hand. She looked at the sink full of dishes, her dishes, and then at me like I was supposed to handle it. You haven't done these yet? She asked, half smiling. I set down my cup of tea. No, dear. You haven't. She blinked. I'm not your mother. I'm not your maid. You're not here as a guest. You're here as a tenant. And in this house, we clean up after ourselves. She scoffed. You don't expect me to do chores, do you? I stood, walked over to the fridge, took out the printed list I'd taped there the night before. It was titled, Justine's Weekly Responsibilities in Exchange for Rent. She read it, eyes wide. This is manual labor. Correct, I said. It builds character. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. But she didn't argue. Not out loud, anyway. Because she had nowhere else to go. And the truth was, her pride was cracking. Over the next few days, I watched her try to post online about her new wellness journey while wearing garden gloves and pulling weeds out of a flower bed she once laughed at. She burnt dinner twice. She ruined her manicure digging in the dirt. And one afternoon, I caught her crying quietly in the laundry room, holding one of Adam's old shirts like it could still fix what was broken. But I didn't say anything. I just walked past her and left a folded towel on the bench beside her. Because I wasn't trying to humiliate her, I was teaching her what life had failed to: respect, boundaries, responsibility. And slowly, something changed. One morning, she came into the kitchen with a cup of coffee for me. It's not too strong, is it? She asked nervously. I took a sip. It was perfect. Thank you, I said. She smiled. For the first time, a real one. Not one for the camera. Ladies, you know what that felt like? It felt like planting seeds in winter and seeing a little green sprout poke through frozen soil. A miracle? Maybe not. But a start? Definitely. So, if you're watching this and someone's taken over your life, your peace, your home, please know this. You don't have to fight with fire. You can rebuild with patience. And power doesn't always look like shouting. Sometimes, it looks like a list on the fridge and a firm voice at the table. Like this video if you've ever had to teach someone how to treat you. Subscribe if you're still waiting for that moment where you stop folding for everyone else. Because in Chapter 10, something arrives in the mail. Something that changes everything again. Thank you for sticking with me, friend. Every time you click that next button, it feels like we're sitting at the same kitchen table, sharing coffee, stories, and the scars that made us wiser. This next chapter? It starts with something strange. It was a Wednesday morning. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, and I was humming to myself while folding towels, the kind of simple peace I used to pray for when Adam and Justine were treating my house like a hotel they hadn't paid for. I went to the mailbox, not expecting much. Maybe a flyer. A bill. Junk. But tucked in between the usual mess was an envelope with no return address. No stamp. Just my name, handwritten in shaky blue ink. Margaret Fielding front and center. Underlined twice. I took it inside, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened it with the letter opener Harold had used since 1972. The paper inside was thin, like the kind they use in old journals. And the words, well, they were the kind that make your heart stop for just a second. Mom, if you're reading this, I guess I'm not man enough to face you directly. I know what I did. I know I failed you. I just didn't think you'd actually stand up to me. You always gave, and I thought you'd never stop. I guess I thought you were too old to fight back. That was my mistake. I'm in trouble. I owe people money. Serious people. I messed up, Mom. And now they're threatening to come after me. Please, if you can help, please. I'll do anything. I'm sorry. Adam, I folded the letter once. Then again. Then I lit a match and dropped it into the sink. I watched it burn, crackle, and disappear. It was the first time I didn't feel guilty about letting go. Because here's the truth. Apologies are meaningless when they're only made out of desperation. And I didn't owe Adam anything more than what I'd already given. Decades of love, money, forgiveness, and second chances he spat on. I stood by the window afterward, watching the breeze dance through the overgrown branches in my yard. And I realized something. He wasn't just asking for money. He was asking for permission to keep breaking me. But that Margaret? The one who used to bend until she nearly broke? She doesn't live here anymore. Later that day, I told Justine about the letter. Her face went pale. He didn't call me, she whispered. Not even a text. I looked at her, and for once, there was no anger left between us. Only quiet understanding. She looked as abandoned as I had felt just weeks before. I think he's running from more than debt, I said. I think he's running from himself. And you know what she said? I was too. Ladies, I need you to hear me when I say this. You can love someone without letting them destroy you. You can care without rescuing. And sometimes, the best gift you can give them is letting them feel the consequences. If that speaks to you, please like this video. Subscribe if you've ever let go of someone you love for your own survival. Because Chapter 11? Oh, it's not quiet for long. You won't believe who comes knocking next. Not Adam. Not Justine. But someone who holds the key to my past and maybe my future. Hello again, love. If you've made it this far, I hope you've realized by now this story isn't just about family betrayal. It's about reclaiming yourself, one broken piece at a time. It's about the quiet strength that grows inside you when everyone else thinks you're finished. Now let me tell you what happened next, because life, as you know, has a twisted sense of timing. It was 2 days after I burned Adam's letter. The house was calm. Justine was in the backyard planting herbs, probably for another fake wellness post, but at least she was trying now. Then came the knock. Not loud, not desperate, just patient. I opened the door, expecting maybe a neighbor or a delivery, but instead, I saw a woman in her late 60s. Silver gray hair, elegant but modest clothing, and eyes that looked far too much like my own. Margaret, she asked softly. It's me, Helen. I blinked. Helen? She nodded. Your sister. Now, before you get too excited, this wasn't the warm, fuzzy reunion people like to imagine. Helen and I hadn't spoken in over 15 years. We'd had a falling out after our mother passed. She took the jewelry. I took the grief. She got the apartment in Brooklyn. I got the responsibility. And after that, silence. I know I have no right to be here, she said quickly, but I heard about Harold. And about Adam. I saw the post Justine made before she deleted it. I thought maybe. She trailed off, eyes watery. I let her in. Not because I'd forgiven her, but because part of me needed to know why she came back now. We sat at the kitchen table. She looked around. It still smells like vanilla and rosemary, she said. Just like when we were kids. I still use the same recipe, I replied. She looked down. Margaret. I came because I'm sick. And I don't have anyone left. No kids. No husband. Just a bunch of regrets. I was quiet. You don't owe me anything, she continued. But I needed to see you. I needed to tell you I was wrong. About Mom. About you. About everything. You ever have one of those moments where your whole body feels like a shaking glass of water, but you hold it still anyway? That was me. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just reached across the table and took her hand. I never stopped being your sister, I said. You did. But maybe this is our second chance. And there it was again. That strange, miraculous circle life draws sometimes, when people who once hurt you come back, not to break you again, but to say they're sorry before it's too late. That night, I offered Helen the guest room. Justine didn't say a word. She just made an extra pot of tea and sat quietly at the table beside us. 3 women. 3 stories. 3 second chances. Ladies, if you're still here, if this story has touched you, please like this video. And subscribe, because in Chapter 12, we face something bigger than betrayal. We face a decision that will either break our family again, or finally start to heal it. And this time, it's my turn to set the terms. Welcome back, sweet soul. If you're still with me, I know you've seen your share of broken relationships, just like I have. Family can be the sharpest knife. But sometimes, just sometimes, it becomes the thread that stitches you back together. But only if you hold the needle. Let me tell you what happened when I realized that for the first time in my life. I was the one holding all the cards. With Helen now in the house and Justine still clinging to whatever scraps of dignity she had left, I found myself in the rarest of positions, power. Real power. Not just over a house or a bank account, but over choices. Over the way this next chapter of my life would look. And I wasn't about to waste it. I sat everyone down in the living room. Helen on the left, Justine on the right. Neither of them looked at each other. Both of them were waiting to see what I would say. But this time, I wasn't softening the blow. I wasn't cushioning the truth in maybes or let's sees. I was going to speak like a woman who had been silent long enough. I've spent most of my life cleaning up after other people's messes, I began. My husband's debts, my son's mistakes, my sister's absences. And I never once asked for anything in return, not love, not gratitude, not respect. They both sat still, silent. But that ends today. Because I'm not going to keep carrying other people's consequences just because I'm the strong one. I've already buried a husband, lost a son to his own greed, and spent years being treated like I was some fading photograph on the wall. I am not invisible. Not anymore. I turned to Helen. If you're here to make peace, that's a start. But peace requires effort. I'll help you, yes. But I won't babysit your guilt. She nodded slowly, tears running down her cheeks. I understand. I turned to Justine. You're still welcome in this house, but not as a daughter-in-law. Not as a charity case. You'll work. You'll contribute. And when you're ready, you'll leave with your own foundation under your feet. Her lips trembled. And if I'm not ready, then you'll be choosing the street. Because I am done letting people drain me dry. And then I said the words I never thought I'd say out loud. This house is mine. This life is mine. From now on, I set the terms. You could have heard a pin drop. Later that evening, Justine left a handwritten note on the counter. Thank you for giving me a place to learn who I really am. I'm going to try. I promise I will. And Helen? She helped me fold the laundry that night. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for pity. She just said, "I'm proud of the woman you became, Margaret." Ladies, if you're still here, I want you to remember this. You don't owe anyone your peace just because they share your blood. You can love people and still protect yourself. You can forgive and still have boundaries. And you can rebuild a kingdom even if they tried to burn it to the ground. Please like this story if you've ever had to reclaim your home, your heart, or your name. Subscribe because in Chapter 13, I get a surprise phone call. And for the first time in a long time, I'm the one holding the line. Thank you for staying with me, darling. If you're watching this while sitting in your own quiet living room, wondering if anyone would ever regret how they treated you, this one's for you. Because sometimes, when you finally stop waiting for an apology, that's when the phone rings. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day where you want to curl up with a blanket and forget the world exists. I was sorting through Harold's old photo albums, ones I hadn't touched in years. Black and white pictures of our first car. Our first Christmas with Adam. My hands trembled just touching them. And then the phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID. No name. Just a number. Out of state. Something in my gut tightened. I answered cautiously. Hello. Silence for a moment. Then came the voice I hadn't heard since the letter in the mailbox. Mom? It was Adam. He sounded hollow. Not angry. Not entitled. Just small. I wasn't sure if you'd answer, he said. Why wouldn't I? I replied calmly. I thought, after everything, I figured you'd blocked me. I considered it, I admitted. But I don't block family. I just stopped letting them hurt me. There was another silence. Then a quiet, broken breath on the other end. I messed everything up, Mom. I know. I lost everything. I know that too. I don't deserve to ask you anything, he said. And I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking to come back. I needed to hear your voice. And I'll admit it, I cried. Not because I forgave him in that moment, but because for the first time, he wasn't pretending anymore. He was a scared little boy who didn't know how to fix what he'd broken. I'm getting help, he said. I checked into a recovery program. I've got debts I'll be repaying for years. I just wanted you to know that. I'm trying to be better. I didn't offer him comfort. Not yet. But I offered him something stronger. Adam, I said, steady and warm if you want to rebuild a life. Start by being the kind of man who doesn't need to ask his mother for forgiveness, just earns it. He sniffled. I will. I swear. I hope you do, I said softly. And when you've truly changed, you'll know where to find me. We said goodbye. No promises. No pretending. Just goodbye. And I stood there, phone in hand, breathing deep. It didn't feel like closure. It felt like the beginning of a new chapter, one where I chose what forgiveness looked like. One where love didn't mean sacrifice anymore, it meant standards. So to every woman listening, if you're still waiting on that call, that apology, that realization from someone who hurt you, I hope it comes. But until then, I hope you keep living, keep healing, keep rising. Like this video if you've ever had to love someone from a distance. And subscribe because in Chapter 14, I make the boldest move of all. I decide to sell the house. Yes, my house. And you won't believe where I go next. Hello again, sweetheart. If you've been following my story, I want you to take a deep breath with me right now. In and out. Because what I'm about to tell you might sound crazy. Or sad. Or strong. Or all three. I sold the house. Yes, the very house I fought for. The house Harold and I built together. The house I reclaimed after being treated like I didn't exist in it. But let me tell you why. It happened one morning as I stood in the backyard, watching Justine carefully water the herb garden. She looked different now, no makeup, no filters, just a woman learning how to stand on her own 2 feet. Helen was on the porch, sipping coffee and flipping through one of Mom's old recipe books. She'd been helping with chores, even cooking once or twice. Her cancer diagnosis wasn't aggressive yet, but she was taking treatments, staying with me, rebuilding. And me? I was standing in the center of the home I had fought tooth and nail to control, and I realized I no longer needed it to define me. This house held memories, yes, but it also held ghosts. Of Harold. Of the years I went unnoticed. Of my silence. I wanted a fresh start. Not just emotionally. Geographically. So I called Mr. Whitmore. I'm ready, I told him. Ready for what? To let it go. I want to sell the house. There was a pause. You sure, Margaret? Yes, I said. I've already taken what matters with me. And the rest. I'm ready to release. And that was that. I broke the news to Justine and Helen over dinner. You could hear the fork clink on the plate. You're selling? Justine asked, shocked. I am. But where will you go? I smiled. Someplace smaller. Quieter. With sunlight in the mornings and lavender in the windows. I've already found a little cottage near the coast. Helen reached over and took my hand. You're really doing it? I am. But what about us? Justine whispered. You'll be fine, I said gently. You've learned more in the last 2 months than in your entire marriage. And if you keep going, you'll land on your feet. And me? Helen asked, eyes glistening. You're coming with me, I said. If you want to. She laughed and cried at the same time. I do. And just like that, I was no longer the woman trapped in her own home. I was the woman choosing her next chapter. Ladies, listen to me close now. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave the place where your pain learned to sit quietly in the corner. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't yelling. It's healing so loudly they can hear it in another zip code. I boxed up what mattered, old photos, the red notebook, Harold's compass, and the rest I donated. Because I don't need 4 bedrooms to know who I am. I just need me. If this story speaks to your soul, if you've ever considered walking away from everything just to find peace, please like this video. And subscribe, because in chapter 15 we move into the cottage. And I discover that sometimes a small house can hold the biggest freedom of your life. Thank you, my dear friend, for staying on this journey with me. Whether you're a grandmother, a widow, a divorcee, or simply a woman who's had enough of being taken for granted, this chapter is for you. I moved into the cottage 3 weeks after the house was sold. It was nothing fancy. Just a small, 2-bedroom place nestled on a gentle slope in a coastal town where the sea hummed like an old lullaby and the wind didn't scream, it whispered. There were no marble countertops, no home office for influencers, no imported tiles, just warmth. Just peace. I unpacked slowly. No rush. I let each photo, each book, each memory find its new place, as if I were tucking pieces of myself back into my soul. Helen moved in the next day. I had the smaller bedroom prepped for her, filled with soft blankets, tea in the cupboard, and a vase of white lilies on the windowsill. We didn't talk much that first night. We didn't have to. We sat on the front porch under a sky filled with more stars than I ever saw back in the city, sipping warm cider and listening to the ocean sigh. This doesn't feel real, Helen said. It's real, I whispered. And it's ours. A week later, I started a small routine. Morning walks on the shore. Gardening in the back, nothing big, just herbs and tomatoes. Afternoon tea with Helen. And in the evenings, I'd record my story for all of you. Yes, you. Because the story? It isn't just mine. It belongs to every woman who's ever whispered, I used to matter. And guess what? You still do. One afternoon, I received a letter. This time, with a return address and a stamp. It was from Justine. She was living in a small apartment now, working part-time at a bookstore. She said it was humbling but healing, and she thanked me for showing her what strength actually looked like. I folded the letter with a soft smile. Not all stories end with fireworks. Some end with dignity. Ladies, if you're listening right now and wondering if it's too late to start over, let me say this with all the love in my bones. It is never too late to choose peace. It is never too late to reclaim your name. It is never too late to start again on your terms. Hit that like button if you've ever dreamed of your own little cottage by the sea. And subscribe because in Chapter 16, something unexpected happens. A knock on the door. And this time, it's not family. It's an opportunity. Still here with me? I could hug you. Truly. Your presence, your listening heart, it means more than you know. I hope by now you realize this story isn't about how I was broken. It's about how I became whole again. One decision, one boundary, one breath at a time. Now let me tell you about the knock on the cottage door that changed everything. It was late morning. Helen was in the back garden, humming to herself as she tended to her roses. I was inside, writing in my red notebook. Yes, the same one. Only now, it wasn't a list of what I'd lost. It was a journal of everything I'd gained. That's when I heard it. Knock. Knock. Not frantic. Not familiar. Just curious. I opened the door to find a woman in her 40s with a clipboard, a kind face, and a look of mild hesitation. "Mrs. Fielding?" she asked. "That's me," I replied, standing a little taller. "My name is Karen Wilcox. I work with the local community center down the road. We've been organizing a women's resilience group, kind of like a support circle for women over 50 who've experienced grief, isolation, financial struggle, you know, the things no one talks about at dinner parties." I raised a brow. "Go on." "Well," she continued, "your name came up. Apparently, someone on our board follows your story channel. Said your videos have been helping a lot of older women feel seen. Would you consider speaking at our next gathering?" For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Me? Speak? I was the woman they once called fragile, the woman they cornered in her own home, the woman who had been silenced, ignored, and reduced to nothing more than grandma or the old lady who lives alone. And now someone wanted to hear me speak? I stepped outside, took a deep breath of salt and pine, and looked her in the eye. I'd be honored. That night, I told Helen. She lit up like a child. "You're going to be incredible," she said, squeezing my hand. And you know what? For the first time in my life, I believed it. I spent the next few days preparing my story, our story. I didn't rehearse it like a speech. I let it flow from the heart. Because what good is a polished performance if it doesn't come from truth? And when I stood in that circle of women the following week, dozens of them, all with their own aches and triumphs, I felt something shift inside me. I wasn't just healing anymore. I was helping. Ladies, listen close now. Your pain has a purpose. Your scars tell a story. And sometimes, the very things they tried to shame you for become your greatest power. Like this chapter if you've ever felt called to use your story to help someone else. And please subscribe because in Chapter 17, I return home to find a letter on the kitchen table. But this time, it isn't a cry for help. It's an invitation to something I never thought I'd have again, a future that's mine. Oh, you're still here. That means something. It means you feel this in your bones, don't you? That maybe, like me, you spent years making everyone else the priority until you woke up one day and realized no one had made you one. But now it's your turn. Let me tell you about the letter I found that morning. I'd just returned from the community center. My talk had gone better than I could have dreamed. The women laughed, cried, hugged. Some even stayed behind just to hold my hand and say, "Thank you." I thought I was the only one. That feeling, that healing, stayed with me as I walked back into the cottage. Helen had gone to the corner cafe to pick up scones. The windows were open, the sea breeze drifting in. The house smelled like jasmine and fresh start. And then I saw it. A cream envelope on the kitchen table. No handwriting this time. This one was typed, official, and elegant. I opened it slowly. "Dear Mrs. Margaret Fielding, we are honored to inform you that you have been nominated to receive the Women of Grace Resilience Award for your outstanding contribution to empowering women over 60 through storytelling, advocacy, and personal courage. Your journey, marked by perseverance, compassion, and quiet strength, has inspired hundreds within our local and online communities. We would be privileged to honor your story at our upcoming gala this fall. Kindly find RSVP details enclosed. With admiration, the Women of Grace Foundation. My hands trembled. Not from fear, not from weakness, but from the overwhelming feeling of being seen. I sat down, my eyes filling with tears, not because I needed the award, but because for the first time in decades, someone put my name on something beautiful. It wasn't Adam's mom. It wasn't Harold's widow. It wasn't the poor old woman who had been pushed into a back bedroom. It was Margaret Fielding. Me. When Helen returned, she found me sitting quietly at the table, letter in hand. "What is it?" she asked. I handed it to her. She read it slowly, her lips parting in disbelief. "You're going to be honored. Margaret, you're going to be recognized." I nodded. Not for surviving. For thriving. And in that moment, I realized something. I didn't get stronger because I had no choice. I got stronger because I chose to stop shrinking. To every woman watching right now, yes, you, the one who's made it all the way to chapter 17, I want you to know this. You're allowed to be celebrated. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to write a new chapter where your name is in bold print. Please like this chapter if you've ever doubted your worth. And subscribe because chapter 18 brings something I never expected, a knock on the door. Not from the past, but from a future I thought I'd buried decades ago. His name? Raymond. You're still with me. That means you believe in second chances, maybe even miracles. And maybe, like me, you've started to understand that healing doesn't mean going back to who you were. It means becoming who you were meant to be. Let me tell you about the moment that proved it. It had been a few weeks since the invitation to the gala. I'd RSVP'd with trembling hands and a fire in my chest. Not because I needed applause, but because I wanted every woman in that room to see what survival really looked like. But before that event came, something else did. Or rather, someone. I was sitting on the porch again, knitting in the golden evening light, when I heard a familiar car pull up. The engine gave that soft rumble, the kind you only notice when your heart skips a beat just hearing it. And then I saw him. Raymond. Same silver hair. Same sturdy shoulders, but softer now. Kinder. Like life had roughed him up just enough to smooth out his edges. He stepped out of the car with a paper bag in hand. "Brought you apple fritters," he said with a sheepish smile. "You always liked those, right?" I smiled, setting down my needles. "I still do." He walked up the path slowly, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome. But the truth is, I'd been waiting. I just didn't know for what until I saw his face again. We sat on the porch together, sipping coffee and biting into those fritters like we were kids sneaking snacks before dinner. "I saw your video," he finally said. "The one where you talked about losing your voice and taking it back. You watched that." He nodded. Every minute. There was a long silence. Not uncomfortable, just full. "I didn't come back just to drop off fritters, Margaret," he said softly. "I came to ask you something." My heart fluttered, just a little. "What's that?" "I've got a place down near the lake. Quiet. A bit lonely. I was thinking, maybe if you ever got tired of being so independent, you might like some company. No pressure. No promises. Just someone to drink coffee with in the mornings. Someone to walk beside." I looked at him, really looked. This wasn't the kind of man who came to rescue me. This was the kind of man who recognized that I had already rescued myself. And now? He was offering peace, not possession. I reached out and took his hand. "I'm not tired of being independent," I said gently. "But I'm not tired of sharing either. As long as I still get the last fritter." He laughed. "Deal." Ladies, listen to me now. Love that honors your strength is still out there. Respect that doesn't require shrinking is still possible. And a new chapter with someone who sees you? It's never too late. If this chapter gave you a spark of hope, please like this video. And subscribe because in chapter 19, I step onto a stage, not to beg for attention, but to claim recognition. The gala, the speech, and the moment I finally stand tall as the woman I was always meant to be. Darling, you've made it to chapter 19. That means something, you mean something. And if no one's told you lately, let me be the one to say it. You are worthy of being heard. Now, let me tell you what it felt like to walk into that gala as someone no longer surviving, but shining. The event was held at the town hall, all dressed in silver and soft light. The kind of place where people wear stiff shoes and give polite applause. But that night, the air carried something different. There were women of all ages. Some in pearls, some in sneakers. All of them warriors in their own way. Helen came with me, wrapped in a shawl I'd knitted for her. Justine sent flowers, no note, just a quiet gesture of respect. And Raymond? He stood in the back of the room in a navy coat, his eyes never leaving mine. I took my seat at a table near the front. My hands were trembling just a little. Not from nerves, from magnitude. Then I heard it. Please welcome our Women of Grace Resilience Award honoree, Mrs. Margaret Fielding. The room applauded. But I didn't hear clapping. I heard every time someone said I wasn't enough. I heard every insult they wrapped in a smile. I heard every silence I sat through, waiting to be seen. And now they were standing. I walked to the podium. Slowly, steady. And I began to speak not like I was reading off a paper, but like I was writing it into their hearts. Good evening. My name is Margaret Fielding. I'm a widow, a mother, a sister, and once upon a time I was the woman in the background. The one who made the meals, cleaned the messes, and stayed silent when respect left the room. I was called a burden. I was used, overlooked, and betrayed. But I am standing here today not because I fought back with fire, but because I rose with grace. I want to say this to every woman who's ever been told she was too much or not enough, you are not done. Your worth isn't in how useful you are to others. It's in how truthful you are to yourself. And it's never too late to choose yourself, to write a new ending, to reclaim your voice, your home, your heart. I didn't win this award because I was brave. I won it because I was tired of being erased. Thank you for seeing me. The room was silent for a moment. And then, standing ovation. I looked out at the crowd and saw tears, smiles, some women holding hands, and I realized something beautiful. I wasn't just telling my story. I was telling theirs too. I stepped down from that stage lighter than I'd felt in decades. Not because they applauded, but because I believed every word I said. Ladies, if this chapter spoke to you, if you've ever wanted to stand tall and say, I matter, then please like this video. And subscribe, because next time, in chapter 20, we close the book. Not with an ending, but with a legacy. Here we are, love. Chapter 20. The final page of this story, but not the end. Not for me. And certainly not for you. Because this isn't a tale of tragedy. It's a testament. A testament to every woman who has ever been told to sit down, shut up, fade away. Now, we rise. Let me tell you how it ends, or rather, how it continues. After the gala, life didn't become a fairy tale. It became something better, honest. I moved into a rhythm. The kind of quiet, beautiful routine that women our age aren't often granted because no one expects us to want more. But I did, and I took it. I still volunteer at the community center once a week. I run a circle for women over 60 who've faced abuse, neglect, loneliness. We laugh. We cry. We reclaim. Helen's still with me. She's responding well to treatment. She bakes the best cornbread this side of the country, and sometimes we stay up past midnight talking about the boys we loved and the women we became. Justine? She's working full-time at the bookstore now. Sent me a photo the other day, holding a check, standing next to a stack of her own self-published poetry. Can you believe it? She titled it The House I Broke, The Woman Who Fixed Me. As for Adam, he's in recovery. We talk once a month. I don't offer money. I offer truth. And he listens now. And Raymond? He comes over every Sunday. We cook. We sit on the porch. We don't talk about the past too much. We just hold the present together. But the part one want to leave you with, the real treasure of it all, is this. I started writing. Not just notebooks. Not just these videos. But a memoir. A real one. Still here. A life rewritten after 60, coming next spring, published by a local press that said my story had too much soul to ignore. Can you believe that? After all the years of being told I was too much, now I'm not enough for a quiet life, because people are finally listening. And if they're listening to me, they'll listen to you too. So don't stay silent. Don't stay small. Don't wait for permission. Start with your story. Even if it's just scribbled in the back of a grocery receipt. Even if no one hears it but you. Because you matter. Your voice matters. And it's never too late to start again. If this story has touched you in any way, please like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because there are so many more stories waiting to be told. Yours. Mine. Ours. From my little cottage by the sea, with love and strength, I say this one last time. I was the woman they tried to silence. Now I'm the voice they can't ignore. Thank you for listening.